Hello and welcome to another video. So today we're taking a look at PDK Dragon. PDK Dragon's been doing fairly well, and it does fairly well for me. So there is only one thing that probably would be altered in this deck, and it would probably be the True Dragon. You'd probably want to run the Soar, whatever it is, the spawning Hell Dragons basically. A little bit better to run, but in this situation I just don't have them enough to run that, and it's not worth just running one copy of. So we're just running the True Dragons, as they do a fairly nice job at both negating damage and dealing with our play point problem, which is one you want when you're running such high cost kind of finishes. So we're going to have a couple of matches. Both are against Rune. I would have liked a little more variety for this PDK video. They are two different variants of Rune with Earth and Chimera, but this should be good enough. I mean, we get to see both the PDK playstyle and the Zoe Eyes playstyle, which does fairly well, like finishing off games. So hopefully you guys will enjoy it, and we'll get right into games. So as I said, both games will be Rune. The first one we start off with will be the Earthright Rune, or maybe Abyss Rune. I'm not really sure, honestly, because they run a very similar starting engine, and whether they make it to the Abyss Rune area or not really is very random. So we start off with a pretty solid hand. Going for the PDK and early drops are always nice. Going first though means we don't get to ramp quite as fast, so that's a little bit of a disadvantage, but at the same time a slight advantage, I guess, because when we do end up ramping, we'll get ahead pretty quickly. But starting off with the 2-drop, getting the 1-3 on board really will help us out in the long run, so why not? Double Star CSL Scope though, they're really starting to thin their deck quickly, inside as well. And a Witch's Cauldron, wow, so that was a pretty impressive turn with the amount of cards they both went through and played out. Didn't have much to play on turn 3, so Dragon Hornet was, giving us a couple of Maelstrom Dragons to take advantage of later on. And an Abomination, not really a problem. We'll pretty much clear that instantly with this 1-3 here and its spell. And since we have a double Water of Orcas, we may as well play something out here, since we may as well hold those for later. But getting out the 2-2 there, just a little bit in advance. We've already got an extra one to back it up anyway, so why not? So I did plan to ignore this 6-6 here. I decided to take the chance. I've got 5 cards in hand. The odds of them ramping straight up to 9 cards in hand, not the highest, so leaving a 4-4 and a couple of 2-2s should be okay. Worst case I lose them, and that'd be a little disappointing, but I mean, could be worse. And considering next turn we are going to be able to go for a PDK play, which is going to let us get just that little bit extra damage in with this Maelstrom, plus we have a second PDK anyway. And a pretty decent amount of damage. I decided to get rid of the drop there because they were at 8 cards, which means they would have got 9. It would have went off and we would have been in trouble. So removing it was definitely the best play I had available to me at that stage. They did end up clearing anyway though, which is a little disappointing, but not the worst case scenario. Since we still have the Prime Dragon Keeper, a nice Dragon Oracle, and a Maelstrom Dragon, I mean, we've got a pretty solid hand. And with a pre-evo on the PDK, we are going to be able to avoid another clear like we just had, as really they haven't got too many options when it comes to removing this now. And since we can hold on to the Water of Orcas, we are going to get a fairly big turn, regardless of what they play here. They are going to get rid of the Maelstrom Dragon, sorry, first, which is really not bad for us. It frees up our Water of Orca play, gives us the potential. Getting the second PDK guarantees us lethal. I mean, we would have pretty much had it anyway at that point. Odds were that we would have been able to clear everything. I mean, 4 Orcas would have cleared it, and then we just attack with PDK for lethal, but this way was a little bit more fun, being able to just PDK them down with pure damage. Nothing like a little PDK to brighten up the day. And our next matchup is more of a Chimera-ish Rune, I'd say, judging by what they started playing to begin with. So definitely a different matchup, and we end up going down a completely different path of play, relying on things like Irons, more so than anything. I'm sorry, I just blew a bug away. Little like a gnat bug just flying around, keeping me company, I guess. So we start off well. I mean, getting the 1-drop play on the Zoe is always nice. It gives us a draw and sets those up for later. So irons are going to be our biggest win condition, I think. for most games like this. If you get in a matchup where you just need pure damage, you can't go wrong with Zoe and Irons. They do amazing work. And we get to start off pretty early. I didn't mean to play the gold out there, the 2-2. I just played it because I didn't really have any other choices. And getting damage was going to be more important to me. Concentration, I keep saying consecration, that's a completely separate thing, but either way we do okay. I decided to go for the Orcas because I think, well, not many rune decks like this will run a complete clear on these, not easily anyway, so either way they would require to waste resources dealing with it. So True Dragon is going to allow us to ramp slightly, and a quick Evo will give us 5 damage to the face, putting them very close to our lethal range. Plus, our Irons with another Evo next turn will drop to 8, which will be easily playable regardless of what move we make next turn. They did leave up the Orca, which means we're guaranteed this 4 damage. And I do decide to just play it a little safe and go with Cleaver Roy and go for a ramp, plus an attack. Although I probably should have went with the Fire Drake, it's pretty fine either way. This is just in case they heal or set up wards. Ruining, no real issue to me. Pretty easy one to counter. I mean, Rooney's not really an issue. This deck does fairly well in the mid to early game. So, why not? So, quick Irons to face, and we'll have our lethal. While this video was rather quick, so I do apologize for that, but these couple of games showed off the deck pretty much perfectly at this point, and the playstyle's very straightforward. Because this deck really only has 2 playstyles, PDK or high-end finishes. Most of the rest either supports one or the other, so you can either defend with most of your early game, drop those big drops, or just then use your early game with PDK to clear and go face for small chunks of damage, and then finish with big cards if you need them as well. So honestly, this deck is a pretty all-rounder deck when it comes to that. It does well in multiple situations depending on which playstyle you decide to go down. I think I showed both those playstyles off reasonably well, so hopefully you guys have an idea on how this works and how it will go. And if you did enjoy this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. You'll find the deck list in the description below, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.